Welcome back to the Common Colt Podcast, a Colts podcast with real takes, no clickbait. I'm Josh Hudgens, and that's Dan Hertzler. Dan, how's it going?
I'm doing good. We got our head coach. Now it's time to start moving into draft talk, man. I love this time of the year. This is where these bad teams like the Colts are. We get to get excited about the potential of new blood coming in, new talent coming in. We've seen some teams go from the bottom to the top. Man, the Colts can do it. We're excited. But Josh, hey, we got some other teams out there. We got some teams that might jump ahead of the Colts, and we're going to talk one that's got some familiar ties today in the Carolina Panthers.
Yeah, it's interesting. I know I've read different articles. ESPN listed the Panthers as a team who might trade up in the NFL draft, and we give one-word reactions around here, and my one word is payback. Look, you got Frank Reich, who probably isn't super happy with how the Colts did him. Some might say they did him dirty. I'm not sure. I'm not saying that, but he did get fired halfway through the season. He has a chance now to jump the Colts in the draft. I think that's going to be super interesting. We're going to dive into that in a little bit. But Dan, what's your one word?
Yeah, my one word is maybe. Maybe. I think this is a thing that we can't just write off as Colts fans. We've got to give this attention because they're one of the teams. We've talked about the Bears trading down. We talked about the Texans maybe trading up or getting ahead of us. The Panthers are one of the teams that needs a quarterback, and they've got some capital now, not a whole lot, but they've got some extra picks because of the CMC trade. They can potentially jump up in front of us. Now, here's why I say maybe. I don't think Carolina can get all the way up to number one. That's going to take a haul, and I don't think the Bears want to drop there. But we've got to understand that if the Colts don't go number one, they still got a team sitting there at number 3 in the Arizona Cardinals that they might want to move back. And does Carolina have enough to jump to 3, which would be ahead of the Colts? So I think we got to pay attention to this. I think we got to figure this out. This is a definite maybe. And as you mentioned, Frank Reich, he knows us well. He might know what our intentions were. Maybe he had some talks with Ballard, before the season. Hey, if this goes south, what are we going to do? He might have some inside information on what the Colts want to do, and he might be able to jump ahead of us.
Well, that's kind of what I was thinking as well. First of all, when you think about the teams in front of the Colts, the Bears, heck, even the Texans might trade. If they don't like any of the quarterbacks, they could potentially trade back. Let's say they're in on Caleb Williams next year and they want to build their roster out. We've already talked about that. I don't think the Texans are a shoe-in to taking a quarterback. But when I look at the Panthers, I do believe they are a legitimate threat and maybe the biggest threat to the Colts to getting the quarterback they want. And let's state the obvious. The Panthers are a quarterback-needy team. They have some talent on their roster. I know you hit on the picks. They're 9th overall. They got 2 seconds. They got a 3rd. And they've got some they got some 4th-round picks they can deal. Next year's picks they can deal. And they have players on their roster who can make an immediate impact. So it's not like they're just a void of talent team. They could trade up if they wanted to. You think about Frank Reich. Obviously, we hit on that. The guy's an offensive-minded head coach. He left the Colts who couldn't find their quarterback. And like you said, he's been in the building with Chris Ballard, Jim Irsay. I'm not saying they've already fully scouted out the roster or the rookies at the time when Frank Reich had left. But halfway through the season, they were already playing Sam Ehlinger when Reich got fired. The quarterback situation was dead in the waters. I wouldn't be surprised if there was already some initial talks there. So when I think about all that, I do deem the Panthers as the team that is a major threat to the Colts. Now, before we go much further on this, I do want to say we're on our path to 1,000 subs, guys. If you just want to do us a favor, if you're a Panthers fan watching this, if you're a Colts fan, help us get there. We're so close, and we just need some just a few more subs. So help us out big time. That'd be awesome. But one thing Frank Reich also did is Parks Frazier. He stole Parks Frazier. I don't want to say stole, but he hired Parks Frazier from the Colts. This Colts offensive staff is probably going to have a complete reset with Shane Steichen anyway. But what do you think about that move by Frank Reich? Just kind of getting some old Colts, kind of putting the band back together, if you will.
Yeah, it's kind of expected, and he didn't get a fair shake here, so I don't want to be super judgmental. I didn't see anything that impressed me in the 8+ games, whatever he had with Saturday, and nothing that would say, hey, we just lost, the next super genius, some kind of thing. He might go on to be a good coach. I just don't think there's enough information. Like you said, Steichen's going to want to come and bring in his guys. I've already heard them talking with the passing coordinator down with Jacksonville. I think it's Billy Bob Cooter or something like that. I think he was the Lions, but so he's gonna bring in his guys. That's just kind of expected. One of the things that I love about our podcast here is that we do get fans from other teams chiming in, and I'd love to hear Carolina's perspective on this, because there's two things I'm watching from Carolina's perspective. One is, are they really in on Derek Carr? He's been floating around there between the Saints and maybe the Panthers, maybe even the Jets. So you got to keep an eye on that. Maybe Derek Carr goes there, and that takes the Panthers off of the list of potential teams. The other thing is, it sounds like they really might like this kid out of Florida. I think it's Anthony Richardson, who was kind of erratic as a college quarterback, but he has a lot of similar traits to Cam Newton. And you know how history goes. Like with the Colts, we got a first round in Manning. We got first round in Luck. Now we've gone the old veteran route. We want to go back to the Manning and to the Luck things. We want our top quarterback.
That was good.
Maybe in Carolina. Maybe in Carolina they're talking, hey, it worked with Cam Newton. Maybe it'll work with this, Anthony Richardson kid. So keep an eye on that too, on some of his workouts, some of his pro days. The Panthers might be thinking 9's too far for us to jump up. We're just going to stay here. We're going to take the best available quarterback, and maybe that's Anthony Richardson.
Yeah, that's a good point. I was actually looking more at Will Levis for the Panthers. I feel like Richardson is a guy who completion percentage a little low in college. I'm not as sold on him. Kind of like Malik Willis. I know a lot of experts in the draft said he was going to be a first rounder, and then he obviously wasn't a first rounder. I'm looking at Will Levis, and I think, look, they're already making Josh Allen, even weird Carson Wentz comparisons. And when I think about Carson Wentz, and I think about his play style, and I think about Frank Reich, who likes quarterbacks like that, and he's had success with Carson Wentz. So it wouldn't surprise me if Carolina sees this guy, or Frank Reich sees this guy, and he falls in love with the intangibles. And like you said, it could be a guy like Anthony Richardson, fall in love with the intangibles. Frank Reich does do pretty well with quarterbacks and getting the most out of them. We see in Indianapolis, even with Carson Wentz. I know the guy wasn't the savior of the franchise like we had hoped, but he had a respectable year in Indianapolis when he played here. He brought the best out of him.
You have a much better view of him than I do, man. All I can think about is that last game against Jacksonville, man. I can't get that out of my head. Sorry.
I know what you mean.
You have a lot more grace than I do, man. I don't see anything good with Carson Wentz.
You go back and look at his stats, and you'll be like, okay, that's not bad. Andrew Luck had his best year with Frank Reich. I mean,
don't put those guys in the same sentence. Don't put them in the same sentence. Come on.
Listen. All I'm saying is Frank Reich finds a way to get the most out of his guys, and we'll see. I'm hoping they don't jump the Colts, but we have to talk about it. And it's obviously, but Ballard and Irsay and now Shane are talking about the same exact thing. Like, hey, what do we do if this happens? And you just have to trust that our Colts team are gonna put the chips down, and they're gonna do what they got to do to get our guy. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, and this is the fun part of it, because not only are we evaluating quarterbacks, we have to look at other teams and them, and we got to figure out, until the Colts actually make a move, or and we're hoping they do. We're still on the bandwagon. We want them to go get 1-1. We want them to move up. But this is the fun part. We got to evaluate these quarterbacks. We got to evaluate other teams, and we can't write off the Carolina Panthers. They are a team that we have to pay attention to. And any news coming out of Carolina, I think is important for Colts Nation.
Yeah, guys. So stay tuned to that. And the best way to do it is following the Common Colt Podcast, subscribing to us on YouTube. Hey, guys, again, we're so close to 1,000. It would mean a bunch if you subscribed. And hey, until next time, guys, thanks for watching the Common Colt Podcast, and have a great day.